He invited his poor ex-wife to his Christmas wedding to mock her, but she came in a Bugatti with her twins. Marcus wanted to humiliate his ex-wife by inviting her to his lavish Christmas wedding. He thought she would show up looking broken and defeated. But when Shayla arrived in a midnight blue Bugatti with two beautiful children holding her hands, the entire venue went silent. The same woman he once called barren now had twins. And that was just the beginning. Once upon a time in the bustling borough of the Bronx, New York, there lived a man named Marcus Deshawn Williams. He was a successful real estate developer in his early 30s. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him as a man who loved money, luxury cars, and status. Marcus wore custom-tailored suits, drove the newest Mercedes-Benz, and walked with his head held high as if the concrete beneath his feet wasn't good enough for his Italian leather shoes. He was proud, loud, and always demanded respect from everyone around him. But behind the penthouse apartment, behind the Rolex on his wrist, there was a part of his life that made him angry every single day. His wife, Shayla, had no children. Shayla was a quiet and gentle woman. She was beautiful, with smooth brown skin, natural curls that framed her face perfectly, and soft eyes that carried sadness most of the time. She had married Marcus out of love, not for his money. And for 7 years, she stood by his side through everything. But those 7 years became years of pain because every month she waited, and every month the news was the same. No baby. Before we continue with Shayla's story, if you're enjoying this tale of resilience and unexpected blessings, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you inspiring stories every week that remind you that your current situation is not your final destination. Now, let's get back to the story. One cold December evening, just 2 weeks before Christmas, the storm that had been building in their marriage finally broke. The penthouse was decorated with expensive Christmas ornaments. The tree stood tall in the corner with designer decorations, but the air was thick with tension. Shayla sat at the edge of their king-sized bed, her hands clasped tightly together, a small wrapped gift beside her that she had bought for Marcus. Marcus entered the bedroom with a scowl, his tie pulled loose, his voice heavy with irritation. 7 years, Shayla, Marcus shouted, slamming his car keys on the marble dresser. 7 years of waiting and still no child. Do you want me to die without an heir? What kind of man has no legacy? Shayla lifted her eyes slowly, her voice trembling. Marcus, I've tried. We've tried. It's not in my hands. Maybe we should see another specialist. Maybe there's still hope. Hope? Marcus laughed bitterly. Is that what you've been telling yourself? I'm tired of hope. My mother calls me every day asking why you haven't given me a son. My boys at the club mock me behind my back. Do you know how it feels to be laughed at as a man with no children? You've made me look like a fool. Shayla's eyes filled with tears. Please don't speak like that. I'm your wife. We made a vow before God. We said for better, for worse. Why are you throwing this at me like I'm nothing? Marcus's voice grew louder. Because you're nothing to me now. What's a woman who can't bear children? You live in my penthouse, wear my jewelry, drive my cars, yet you can't give me one child to carry my name. Shayla, you're a curse in my life. Shayla's lips trembled as she tried to speak. Don't call me a curse. I've prayed. I've cried. I go to bed every night begging God to give us a child. I'm not happy, Marcus. Do you think it gives me joy to be like this? I'm in pain too. Marcus turned his back, pacing the room like a caged animal. His anger burned hotter with every word. Enough of your tears. I'm done waiting. I will not allow you to waste my life. Tomorrow I'm calling my lawyer. This marriage is over. Shayla gasped as if her chest had been struck. Divorce? You're going to divorce me after everything? After I stood by you when you were just starting out? After I left my family for you? Marcus, have you forgotten the love we once had? Marcus swung back to face her, his eyes cold and hard. Love doesn't produce children. My mother was right. I should have left you years ago. I need a wife who can give me sons, not a woman who fills my house with silence. By tomorrow, Shayla, I want you out of my house. Shayla broke down, falling to her knees, clutching the edge of his trousers. Please, Marcus, don't do this. Give me more time. Give us more time. God can still answer us. Marcus pulled his leg away as if her touch disgusted him. God has nothing to do with this. You're the problem and I'm tired. You will leave. That's final. The argument echoed through the walls. The housekeeper in the next room whispered to the cook, but neither dared to enter. Shayla's sobs filled the air as she tried one last time. Marcus, look into my eyes. Look at the woman who cooked for you, who supported your dreams, who prayed for you when your business almost collapsed. I've given you everything I could. Don't throw me away like trash. But Marcus's heart was hardened. He picked up his phone and made a call right in front of her. Yes, Attorney Jackson. Prepare the papers. I want a divorce immediately. Yes, she'll be out by tomorrow. No, I don't care about complications. Just do it. Shayla froze, staring at him in disbelief. You already called your lawyer? You planned this? Marcus, how could you? Marcus looked down at her, his tone sharp. Shayla, you're a burden. I'm freeing myself. If you love yourself, pack your things tonight. By morning, I don't want to see you here. Shayla stood slowly, her body weak, her heart breaking into pieces. She walked to the closet and began to fold her clothes into a small suitcase. Her hands shook so much that she could barely zip it. Every dress she folded carried memories. Birthday dinners, church services, quiet movie nights. But now those memories felt like lies. As she packed, Marcus stood watching, his arms crossed, his face stone cold. Not once did he move to stop her. Not once did his heart soften. Shayla finally lifted her small suitcase, her tears falling freely. She turned to him one last time, her voice breaking. Marcus, you will regret this. One day you'll see the truth. One day you'll understand what you've done. But Marcus didn't answer. He looked away as if she were already gone. With slow steps, Shayla walked out of the bedroom, her sneakers quiet on the hardwood floor. The penthouse that once felt like a dream home now felt like a prison. She passed the housekeeper who bowed her head, afraid to meet her eyes. She pushed open the front door, and the cold December air hit her face. Across the street, Christmas lights twinkled mockingly. She paused, looking back at the building she had called home for 7 years. Then she whispered to herself, I may be leaving with nothing, but I will not remain broken. My God will fight for me. And with that, Shayla stepped into the cold night, her suitcase in her hand, her tears falling, but her spirit quietly vowing that this was not the end of her story. Shayla didn't know where she was going that night. She just kept walking, holding her suitcase close. The streetlights were on, but the road felt dark. Her legs were shaking and her eyes were wet. She could still hear Marcus's voice in her ears. You are a burden. I'm freeing myself. She walked past bodegas, past homeless men warming their hands over trash can fires, past families closing up their stores for the night. No one looked at her twice. No one knew that the woman passing them had just lost her home, her husband, and her peace. Her best friend, Keisha, lived in Harlem, about 40 minutes away by train. She was the only person Shayla could think of. They had known each other since high school, and even though life had taken them in different directions, Keisha's door was always open. Shayla took the subway, sitting in the corner of the car, trying to make herself invisible. When she finally reached Keisha's apartment building, it was almost 10 p.m. She knocked gently on the door of apartment 4C. Keisha opened the door in her robe, shocked. Shayla? Girl, what happened to you? Why are you crying? Did somebody die? Shayla couldn't speak. She just burst into tears again and fell into her friend's arms. Come inside. Come inside, Keisha said, pulling her into the small but cozy apartment. She led her to the couch and closed the door. Talk to me, please. What happened? He threw me out, Shayla whispered. Who? Marcus? Shayla nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. He said I'm a curse. He said I'm the reason we don't have children. He called his lawyer right in front of me. Keisha hissed and sat beside her. That man has no fear of God. After all these years? He didn't even check himself? Shayla, you've suffered enough. Shayla rested her head on Keisha's shoulder. I don't even know where to start. I left with just this suitcase. All my things are still in that penthouse. Keisha touched her arm gently. Don't worry. You'll sleep here tonight. You can stay as long as you need. I don't have much, but this apartment is your home now. Shayla closed her eyes and let out a long sigh. Thank you, Keisha. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then Keisha stood up. Come, let me make you some tea. You'll take a hot shower and eat something. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what's next. Shayla sat there as Keisha walked to the kitchen, her eyes staring at the floor. Her heart felt like it had cracked into many pieces. That night, she couldn't sleep. Even though the pull-out couch was comfortable and the apartment was quiet, her mind kept going back to the moment Marcus told her to leave. She remembered how he turned his face away, how he looked at her like a stranger. By morning, her pillow was soaked with tears. Days passed. Shayla stayed in Keisha's apartment, trying to hide her sadness, but she couldn't eat much. She barely spoke. She would sit near the window, staring outside as if waiting for something to change. Keisha tried everything to cheer her up. One morning, she said, Shayla, come with me to the market. Let's walk around, breathe some fresh air. But Shayla shook her head. I don't want people to see me. What if someone asks about Marcus? What will I say? You'll say the truth, Keisha replied. That he's a fool who threw away a diamond because he wanted a stone. Shayla gave a small smile, but it didn't last. Later that week, Keisha brought up something important. Shayla, have you ever gone for a proper medical checkup? Shayla looked at her confused. What kind of checkup? A fertility test. Have you ever tested yourself to be sure the problem wasn't from you? Shayla shook her head slowly. Marcus said it was me. He never agreed to go for tests himself. He said he was fine. He said real men don't need to be tested. Keisha frowned. So you just believed him? I didn't have a choice, Shayla said, her voice weak. He wouldn't listen. And his mother called me names. They all blamed me. Keisha stood up. No, this has to stop. We're going to the hospital tomorrow. Let them run all the tests. I need you to hear the truth from a doctor, not from that proud husband of yours. Shayla didn't argue. She was tired of guessing. Maybe, just maybe, she needed answers. The next day, they went to Harlem Hospital Center, a busy public hospital where Keisha knew one of the nurses. Dr. Patricia Johnson, a kind woman in her 40s, welcomed them into her office. How can I help you today, miss? Dr. Johnson asked gently. Shayla looked down. Keisha answered for her. She was married for 7 years. No child. Her husband divorced her because he said she was barren, but she's never done any tests. We want a full checkup. Dr. Johnson nodded slowly. You did the right thing by coming here. We'll run some tests, then we'll talk. They spent the next few hours doing blood work, ultrasounds, hormone tests. Shayla felt nervous the whole time. What if Marcus had been right? What if she really was the problem? 2 days later, the results were ready. Shayla sat in front of the doctor, her hands sweating. Dr. Johnson adjusted her glasses and smiled. Miss Shayla, everything looks perfectly healthy. Your reproductive system is functioning well. You're ovulating normally. Your hormone levels are excellent. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Shayla blinked. Nothing, the doctor repeated. If there was no pregnancy for 7 years, I strongly advise you to have your ex-husband check himself. From what I see here, you are completely capable of having children. Shayla covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say. Keisha jumped from her seat. I knew it. That man lied to you, Shayla. He blamed you just to cover his own shame. Shayla felt her whole world spin. So all this time, I wasn't the problem. Dr. Johnson smiled kindly. You were never the problem. And when you do find the right man, I believe you'll have your own children. Don't let what happened steal your peace. They thanked the doctor and left. Outside the hospital, Shayla sat on a bench, her body shaking from the truth she had just heard. All these years, she whispered. I begged God. I cried every night. I hated myself. And I wasn't the one. Keisha sat beside her and held her hand. Marcus will pay for what he did to you. I swear, Shayla, one day he'll look at you and wish he never let you go. Shayla looked up at the gray December sky. Maybe this is the beginning of my healing. The next few weeks were different. Shayla started helping Keisha with her small catering business. She wasn't smiling fully yet, but she was no longer lost. She began waking up early again, eating small meals, and even laughing sometimes. One evening she told Keisha, "I want to start something. Maybe a small soul food business. I've always loved cooking. My grandmother taught me everything." Keisha smiled wide. "Yes, that's the spirit. I'll help you. Let's make it happen." They used Keisha's small kitchen to start a meal prep service. Every morning, Shayla would cook fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, and cornbread. By noon, working professionals from nearby offices were ordering from them. People began to know her again. Not as the woman Marcus divorced, but as the woman who made the best soul food in Harlem. One afternoon, a customer smiled at her and said, "Miss, you look different. There's a glow on your face." Shayla smiled softly. "Maybe I'm finally free." But even with the small happiness, there were nights when the pain returned. One night as she was washing dishes, she turned to Keisha. "Do you think he ever loved me?" Keisha looked at her and said slowly, "I think he loved himself more. That's the only thing I'm sure of." Shayla nodded. "I just wish I didn't waste so many years." "You didn't waste them," Keisha said. "You grew. You became stronger. And one day, God will give you more than you lost." Shayla didn't reply, but deep inside, something was changing. A small fire had started. A quiet strength. One Sunday afternoon, Keisha came home from church with news. "Shayla, guess what?" Shayla looked up from her pot of greens. "What happened?" "I saw Marcus's cousin today at the service. He told me Marcus is preparing to marry someone new. Some Instagram model from Miami. Brazilian girl named Camila." Shayla's heart paused for a moment. "Oh," she said quietly. "He's even inviting some of your old friends to the wedding," Keisha added. "And get this, he's having it on Christmas Eve. A whole lavish Christmas-themed wedding. He wants people to come and see what a real wife looks like." Shayla looked away. "He hasn't changed at all." Keisha came closer. "You know he might even send you an invite just to mock you, right?" Shayla didn't say anything. She stirred her greens slowly. Then she whispered, "Let him do whatever he wants. I know who I am now." But that night, as she lay on the pull-out couch, her hand rested on her belly. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, remembering what the doctor said. "You're perfectly healthy." She placed her other hand over her chest. "God, if you ever saw my tears, please show the world that I was never the problem." And she closed her eyes, not with pain, but with a small smile of peace. Shayla stood behind the counter of their small catering setup one crisp morning, wiping down the serving area with a cloth. The Harlem street was already buzzing with life. Kids were running to the bus stop, taxi drivers were honking, and vendors were calling out prices from their carts. She was wearing a simple black sweater and jeans with her natural curls pulled back in a ponytail. The smell of her fried chicken and cornbread filled the air, and a small line was already forming. She smiled weakly at each customer, filling containers with food and handing them over. But inside her heart, there was a quiet war. One part of her was moving forward, but another part still remembered the pain. Still remembered Marcus's voice. Still remembered how she was called barren, useless, and thrown out like garbage. "Miss, 2 orders, please." A man's voice broke her thoughts. She turned. The man standing there was tall, with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. He wore a navy blue hoodie under a North Face jacket and carried a laptop bag over his shoulder. He smiled gently, pointing to the chicken. "Your food smells way too good to pass up," he said. Shayla forced a small smile. "Thank you." "Spicy or mild?" "Spicy," the man replied. "Very spicy. I like my food to have some kick to it." That made Shayla chuckle a little. She packed the 2 containers and handed them over. "How much?" he asked. $18, she replied. He handed her a $20 bill, took the food, and looked at her for a second. "You don't talk much," he said. Shayla shrugged. "I just like to focus on the food." "That's fair," he smiled. "My name's Dante, by the way. I work at the community center down the street. I'll be coming back often. Your chicken has already won my heart." Shayla gave a polite nod. "Thank you, sir." As he walked away, She didn't think much of it. Just another customer. But Dante came back the next day, and the day after that, and the next. Sometimes he ordered 2 containers, sometimes just 1. But each time he came, he made a small joke or shared a short story. He never stayed too long, never forced a long conversation. But Shayla noticed he always made her smile. One afternoon, he stayed a little longer. The street was quieter and no one else was waiting in line. "Miss Shayla," he said, reading her name from the small sign. "Do you rest at all? You've been here since morning." Shayla wiped her hands on her apron. "I rest when I get home." Dante frowned. "You shouldn't work this hard alone. Do you have any help?" "No," she replied, "but I'm used to it." There was silence for a moment. Then he spoke again. "If I'm being too forward, forgive me. But are you married?" Shayla's heart skipped. She looked away. "I was," she said quietly. Dante nodded slowly. "Sorry. I didn't mean to bring up anything painful." Shayla sighed. "It's not your fault." He stood quietly for a few seconds, then cleared his throat. "Well, just know you seem like someone with a good heart. Strong too. I admire that." Then he smiled, waved, and walked off. That night, Keisha noticed something. "Who's that fine man who always comes to buy food?" she asked, her eyes full of mischief. Shayla shook her head. "He's just a customer." "Are you sure?" Keisha smiled. "Because the way he looks at you." Shayla rolled her eyes. "Don't start." But Keisha wasn't wrong. Over the next few weeks, Dante didn't just come for food. He brought supplies, aluminum containers, napkins, sometimes bottled water. He said it was to support the business. And slowly, Shayla started to talk more. She told him about her cooking journey, about how she learned from her grandmother in South Carolina, about how she used to dream of opening her own restaurant. One afternoon, Dante sat on a plastic crate beside her setup. "Shayla," he said, "forgive me again if I'm overstepping, but I see something special in you." Shayla looked down, unsure of what to say. "I was married too," Dante said. "Years ago. My wife died from cancer. I haven't tried to love anyone since, until recently." Shayla's eyes widened. "You remind me what peace looks like," he continued. "Not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet kind that sits in your chest and makes you feel at home. I don't want to rush you. I just wanted you to know." Shayla didn't reply for a long time. She looked at her hands, then at the food containers, then at him. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Dante said gently. "But I'm not Marcus. I won't break your heart." It took months, but eventually Shayla said yes to coffee. Then to dinner. Then to long walks through Central Park on Sunday afternoons. And one day, as they sat on a bench near the Harlem Mirror, she looked at him and asked, "Why me?" "You could have chosen anyone." Dante smiled. "Because you're the most real person I've met. You carry pain, but you still smile. You were broken, but you didn't stay down. That's the kind of woman I want beside me." Shayla's eyes filled with tears. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. "Then I want to try too," she said. They got married 6 months later. A small, quiet ceremony at a little church in Brooklyn. No big cake, no live band, just a few close friends and family. Keisha was the maid of honor, crying and dancing like she had just won the lottery. "I told you," she shouted. "I told you good things were still coming." Their new life was peaceful. Dante was gentle with her. He made her laugh. He listened to her stories. He helped her expand her catering business into a proper soul food restaurant in Harlem called Shayla's Kitchen. Every morning before work, he kissed her forehead and said, "I love you, my queen." For the first time in years, Shayla felt safe. And then the unexpected happened. One morning, she woke up feeling strange. Her body was weak. She couldn't stand for too long. The smell of fried chicken made her sick. She brushed it off. Maybe it was the flu. But when it continued for 2 weeks, Dante said, "Let's go to the doctor." At the clinic, they ran tests. She waited on the bench, biting her nails. The nurse returned with a wide smile. "Congratulations, Mrs. Shayla," she said. "You're pregnant." Shayla froze. "Pregnant?" "Yes." The nurse nodded. "About 6 weeks." Shayla covered her mouth, tears pouring from her eyes. Dante jumped to his feet. Pregnant? Are you serious? The nurse laughed. Very serious. He turned to Shayla, pulled her up, and hugged her tightly. You're going to be a mother, he whispered. We're going to be parents. Shayla couldn't stop crying. The joy was too much. She held his shirt and cried like a baby. The months that followed were full of excitement, but the biggest surprise came during her ultrasound at 20 weeks. As the technician moved the probe over her belly, her eyes widened. Mrs. Shayla, I'm seeing 2 heartbeats. Shayla sat up. 2. Yes, the technician said. You're carrying twins. She screamed. The whole clinic probably heard her. When they got home, Dante knelt and cried. God, you've done too much. 2 babies at once. This is more than I asked for. They prepared carefully. Dante painted a nursery. Keisha came to help plan a baby shower. The neighbors brought gifts. The restaurant customers threw them a surprise celebration. And on a calm Saturday morning in early September, Shayla gave birth to 2 healthy babies, a boy and a girl. Tears flowed freely. The nurses clapped. The doctor smiled, and Dante couldn't stop laughing. They look like you, he said, holding the little girl. But this one right here, she's got my nose. Shayla held both babies to her chest, crying silently. I'm not barren, she whispered. God proved them wrong. Word spread fast. People from her old neighborhood came to see the miracle. Even some of Marcus's friends heard about it. She had twins, they asked. That woman Marcus threw out? Yes, someone would reply. And she even owns a restaurant now. Her husband is good to her. Treats her like a queen. Some people smiled with joy. Others shook their heads with regret. But Shayla wasn't thinking about the past anymore. She was holding her babies. She was kissing Dante. She was feeding her twins in the early hours of the morning, smiling at their tiny hands and soft cries. Her scars were still there, but now her life had changed. She was no longer the broken woman crying on the street. She was a mother. She was whole. She was free. While Shayla was learning how to bottle feed 2 babies at the same time, far away in his penthouse in the Bronx, Marcus was sitting in his office, spinning slowly in his leather chair and staring at his phone screen. His business had grown. The company cars were newer, his watches were more expensive, and his bank account was bigger. But there was one thing that still troubled his heart. Something that money couldn't buy. He was still without a child. After throwing Shayla out, he had expected his life to move on quickly. He believed once he got a new woman, one who could give him children, everything would fall into place. But it didn't. He had dated 4 different women in the last 2 years. None of them got pregnant. One even left him after 8 months, saying she couldn't live with a man who refused to see a doctor and blamed everyone but himself. His mother, Mrs. Williams, was now older but still sharp with her tongue. You're not serious, she always said. When I tried to tell you to be patient with Shayla, you didn't listen. You were the one who ran her off. Marcus would always grow angry. Don't mention that woman to me again. But late at night, when everyone had gone home and the penthouse was quiet, his mind would wander. Where was she now? Did she remarry? Did she find happiness? One morning, while scrolling through Instagram, he saw a post that froze him. It was from a food blog reviewing restaurants in Harlem. The photo showed a beautiful woman cutting a ribbon in front of a storefront that read Shayla's Kitchen. He zoomed in. The woman looked like Shayla. The smile, the eyes, even the way she stood. But she looked different, confident, glowing, peaceful. In the next photo, there was a man beside her, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. Marcus's jaw clenched. No, he whispered. It can't be. He kept scrolling. Then he saw another photo. A baby announcement. 2 cribs. Pink and blue balloons. The caption read, "Blessed beyond measure. Welcome to the world, our miracles." Marcus dropped his phone. His hands were shaking. She has children, he said out loud. Shayla has children? He couldn't breathe. He picked up the phone again, staring at the photos. The babies. The husband. The restaurant. Everything he said she could never have. No, it's just coincidence, he told himself. Maybe it's not her. But deep down, he knew the truth. So he decided to block it out with something louder. Another woman. Another wedding. Another chance to prove he wasn't the problem. 29:06. That same week, his friend Jamal called him. Yo, Marcus, there's someone you need to meet. Who? Marcus asked lazily. Her name is Camila. She just moved here from Miami. Instagram influencer, model, comes from money. Very fine, very classy. And guess what? She wants a serious man. Not just all these broke dudes sliding in her DMs. Marcus laughed. You're selling her like she's a car. I'm serious, Jamal said. She's different. You'll like her. Marcus sighed. Fine. Set it up. They met at a fancy steakhouse in Manhattan 2 nights later. Camila was exactly as described. Tall, stunning, with long dark hair and nails painted gold. She wore a tight red dress that looked like it came straight from a runway. But what caught Marcus's attention wasn't her looks. It was the way she spoke. Confident, bold, like someone who knew what she wanted. So, you're the famous Marcus, she said with a small smile, sipping her wine. I've heard a lot about you. And you're the Camila everyone keeps talking about, he replied. They spoke for 2 hours about business, travel, lifestyle. But the topic Marcus brought up almost by force was family. I've been ready for kids since forever, he said. I just haven't found the right woman. Camila raised her eyebrow. You were married before, right? Yes, Marcus said quickly. But she couldn't give me a child. We tried for years. Medical issues on her side. Camila said nothing. She just nodded. Then she smiled again. I'm not in a hurry, but I do want children. Maybe 2. A boy and a girl. Marcus's heart jumped. Same here. Within a month, they were seen together everywhere. At NBA games, at club openings, even at charity galas. People started whispering. Marcus has finally moved on. He started spoiling her, buying her Chanel bags, iPhones, even leasing her a Range Rover. One day, Camila said, let's not waste time. If we're serious, let's do it. Do what? Marcus asked. Get married, she said, checking her nails like it was nothing. Marcus stared at her. You're ready. I'm a grown woman, she said. I know what I want. I don't believe in dating for 5 years. If you want me, show me. That night, Marcus called his event planner. The wedding preparations began immediately. Everything had to be perfect. It was going to be the biggest wedding in New York. Red carpet, luxury cars, a live DJ from Miami, guests flying in from LA and Atlanta. And he wanted it on Christmas Eve. A grand Christmas wedding that would trend on every platform. Marcus was obsessed with making the wedding spectacular, not just for love, but to prove something. To his friends, to his mother, to the world. He wanted everyone to see that he had moved on, that his life was better without Shayla. And deep down, a small voice whispered, he wanted Shayla to see it too. One afternoon, as he sat with the wedding planner going through the guest list, Marcus paused. Add one more name, he said. Who? The planner asked. He picked up a pen and wrote it himself. Shayla Williams. The planner raised her brow. Your ex-wife. Marcus didn't explain. He just smiled coldly. Send her the invite. Make sure it's delivered personally. I want her to be there. Front row seat. Meanwhile, Camila was planning her own side of things. She had ordered her wedding gown from a designer in Paris. The dress cost more than most people's cars. Her bridesmaids were already practicing their choreographed entrance. Her bridal shower was scheduled at a rooftop venue in Manhattan. To the world, she was glowing. But behind closed doors, Camila was getting worried. She had been trying to get pregnant for months. Nothing. Every morning, she checked her calendar. Every evening, she stared at pregnancy tests. All negative. She hadn't told Marcus yet. She was afraid. And her mother's voice kept ringing in her head from their last phone call. Are you sure this man is not the one with the problem? 2 weeks before the wedding, Camila finally brought it up. They were lying on the bed scrolling through wedding photos on her phone. She said quietly, Marcus, do you ever think about seeing a doctor? Marcus looked at her. Why? For a checkup, she said carefully. Just to make sure everything is fine before we get married. He frowned. What do you mean by that? I mean, she hesitated. We've been together for months. No pregnancy yet. Marcus stood up slowly. So you think I'm the problem? No, she said quickly. I'm just saying maybe we both check together. Just to be safe. Marcus's face turned cold. You sound just like Shayla, he said sharply. Blaming me, making me feel like I'm broken. Camila sat up. I didn't say that. He grabbed his shirt. Let's not talk about this again. Ever. Camila said nothing, but inside, a new kind of fear was growing. Marcus continued the wedding plans like nothing happened. He told his boys at the barbershop, this wedding is going to shake the city. I want my ex to see what real success looks like. His friend Jamal laughed. So you're inviting her to disgrace her? Marcus smiled proudly. She needs to see what she lost. But Jamal looked unsure. Are you sure that's wise? What if? There's no what if, Marcus snapped. She'll sit in that venue and watch my new bride walk down the aisle in diamonds. Let her choke on regret. On the day of the wedding rehearsal, Marcus stood in the venue alone before anyone else arrived. He looked around the decorated space. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, a massive Christmas tree covered in gold ornaments, snow machines ready to create the perfect winter wonderland effect. But his heart wasn't peaceful. He took out his phone and stared at Shayla's name on the guest list again. He thought about how she used to iron his shirts perfectly. How she made him chicken soup whenever he was sick. How she cried that night he threw her out. He shook his head quickly. No, he whispered. She was the problem. She couldn't give me a child. I made the right choice. Still, he couldn't breathe properly. He walked outside and lit a cigarette. Far away in Harlem, Shayla was changing her daughter's diaper when her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Keisha picked it up and froze. Shayla, what is it? Shayla asked, wiping the baby's bottom gently. It's a wedding invitation. From who? Keisha turned the phone around. Marcus. Shayla stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She reached for the phone with her free hand, read the digital invite, then slowly placed it back on the counter. Keisha was fuming. What kind of disrespect is this? Is he insane? But Shayla just stood quietly, lifting her baby daughter and holding her close. Then she smiled, a calm, steady smile. It's okay, she said softly. Let him have his wedding. Keisha frowned. You're not going, right? Shayla looked at her twins sleeping peacefully in their bassinets. She didn't answer, but the way she walked to her bedroom with quiet confidence said everything. 36:21. Shayla stood by the window of her bedroom, one hand gently rocking her baby girl while the other held her phone displaying the wedding invitation. The digital invite was elaborate and flashy, designed like something for royalty, Marcus and Camila, a Christmas love story, with animated snowflakes and gold lettering. She had read it 5 times already. Each time it said the same thing, the date, Christmas Eve, the venue, the Plaza Hotel, the dress code, black tie formal, and then her name listed clearly, Shayla Williams, VIP guest, front row seat. She lowered her eyes and took a deep breath. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. But something inside her was rising slowly, like fire warming cold stones. Keisha walked in carrying a bottle. I still don't understand why he sent this. Is he crazy or just evil? Shayla said nothing. Keisha placed the bottle down. Is he trying to insult you after everything he did? Still no answer. Keisha snapped. Shayla, talk to me now. Why are you so calm? You should delete that invitation and block his number. Shayla finally spoke. He wants me to feel small. Keisha folded her arms. Then let's ignore him. We will not give him that satisfaction. Shayla turned slowly. He wants me to come and cry in a corner while his bride walks in with diamonds on her neck and a smile on her lips. And we will not go, Keisha said again, firmly. Shayla looked at her twins, her son in his blue onesie, her daughter in pink, both sleeping peacefully. But what if we show him the truth? Keisha's brow rose. What truth? Shayla's voice was firm. That I was never the problem. That the woman he thought was broken is whole. That the woman he called barren is a mother. Keisha was silent for a long time. Then she sat down on the bed. Wait, are you planning to go to the wedding? Shayla nodded. With the babies? Another nod. Keisha opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Then she laughed. Girl, that man will faint. Shayla, are you serious? Shayla smiled for the first time that day. Very serious. The plan began that evening. Shayla went to her closet and picked out a stunning emerald green dress she had bought months ago but never worn. It was elegant, fitted perfectly, with a modest neckline but a dramatic train. Keisha had helped her pick it out for the restaurant's grand opening, but she had worn something else instead. Keisha brought out her makeup kit. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I don't want you to look loud though. I want you to look peaceful, but powerful. Say less, Keisha grinned. You're going to look like God's receipt. They ordered matching outfits for the twins, a tiny tuxedo for the boy and a beautiful cream dress with a bow for the girl. Keisha borrowed a contact from a friend who worked for a luxury car service and booked a midnight blue Bugatti Chiron. The car will arrive that afternoon and wait down the street until you give the signal, Keisha explained. They practiced how Shayla would walk holding both babies, one on each hip, or maybe one in a carrier. Dante suggested getting a nanny to help, but Shayla refused. No, she said firmly. I want them to see me. I want them to see that I'm their mother. That I carried them. That I'm not broken. I'm not going there to fight, Shayla reminded Keisha as they folded baby clothes. I'm not going to make a scene. I know, Keisha said. But trust me, your presence alone will stop that wedding in its tracks. 39:36. On the night before the wedding, Shayla couldn't sleep. She sat by the window again, watching the snow fall gently over Harlem. The city was decorated for Christmas, lights on every building, wreaths on doors, trees glowing in windows. Dante came and stood behind her. He placed his hands on her shoulders. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, he said softly. I want to, she replied. Not to prove anything to him, but to remind myself that I survived. That I'm still standing. He kissed her cheek. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But are you sure you don't want me to come? She turned to him. No. This is something I need to do alone. Well, not alone, me and the babies. They're my proof. They're my testimony. Dante smiled. And you gave me back joy. You gave me a family I never thought I'd have again. The morning of the wedding arrived. Social media was buzzing. Hashtag Marcus and Camila wedding was trending. Everyone was talking about how it was the event of the year. Celebrity guests were posting from their hotel rooms. The venue looked like a winter palace. The Plaza Hotel had been transformed into a Christmas wonderland. Long red carpets covered the entrance. Giant wreaths hung everywhere. Ice sculptures of angels flanked the doorway. Cameras flashed constantly. Guests walked in wearing furs and diamonds, expensive suits and designer gowns. Inside, Camila stood before the mirror in her bridal suite, her white gown sparkling like fresh snow. It had a 20-foot train and was covered in Swarovski crystals. Her best friend, Isabella, adjusted her veil. You look absolutely stunning, Isabella said. Marcus is going to lose his mind. Camila smiled weakly. I hope so. But in her heart, she still carried fear. No pregnancy. No answers. And a man who refused to get tested. Marcus stood near the altar, looking around the decorated ballroom. He wore a custom white tuxedo with gold embroidery, his shoes polished like mirrors. He kept checking his Rolex. Jamal came to stand beside him. Why are you so restless? I'm waiting for someone, Marcus said. Who? He didn't answer. Then suddenly, his eyes caught movement near the entrance. 41:50, a midnight blue Bugatti Chiron pulled up to the red carpet. The valet's jaw dropped. The photographers rushed forward. The door opened slowly. Out stepped Shayla. She wore the emerald green dress like royalty, her natural curls styled in an elegant updo with a few tendrils framing her face. Her makeup was flawless, but subtle, glowing skin, bold red lips. And in her arms, she carried two babies. Her son, dressed in a tiny tuxedo, looked around with wide, curious eyes. Her daughter, in a cream dress with a bow, was sleeping peacefully against her mother's shoulder. The red carpet went silent. People gasped. Phones came out instantly. Who is that? Wait, is that his ex-wife? She has twins. Oh my God, are those her babies? The whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. Keisha stepped out of the car behind her, wearing a simple black dress, ready to help if needed. But Shayla walked forward with such grace and confidence that Keisha just stayed back, watching with tears in her eyes. Marcus couldn't breathe. He grabbed Jamal's arm so hard it hurt. Tell me I'm dreaming. Jamal blinked rapidly. Bro, she has children. She has twins. Marcus stepped down from the altar area, walking forward like someone in a trance, pushing past guests who were still arriving. Shayla walked slowly, gracefully, through the grand entrance of the ballroom. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor. She held her babies close. Her eyes met Marcus's across the room, but they didn't shake. She didn't look away. She smiled, a soft, simple smile that said everything without words. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as she walked to her seat, the front row seat Marcus had reserved for her, thinking she'd sit there in shame. She sat down quietly, adjusting her daughter in her arms. Her son looked up at the giant Christmas tree and pointed. Mama, lights. She kissed his forehead. Yes, baby. Beautiful lights. The ballroom, which moments ago had been filled with music and laughter, was now almost silent. Every eye was on her. Phones were recording. Instagram stories were being posted in real time. Camila entered the ballroom shortly after, her veil over her face, her bridesmaids behind her carrying her train. She noticed the silence immediately. She noticed the stares. She noticed Marcus standing frozen near the front, his eyes locked on someone in the audience. She reached the altar and whispered harshly, Marcus. What's going on? Why is everyone staring? Marcus couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The pastor cleared his throat loudly. Shall we begin the ceremony? But Marcus wasn't listening. His eyes were still on Shayla, on the babies, on the truth sitting in front of him in an emerald green dress. Camila followed his gaze and saw her, the woman in green holding two babies. Her heart started racing. She lifted her veil slightly and turned to Marcus. Who is that woman with those babies? She whispered sharply. Marcus blinked slowly, as if coming out of a trance. That's Shayla. Camila's perfectly done eyebrows furrowed. Your ex-wife. He nodded slowly, unable to look away. Those children with her? Marcus didn't answer. Camila's voice rose slightly, though she tried to keep it together. Marcus, are those her children? The guests in the first few rows were now openly watching the drama unfold at the altar. Even the pastor looked uncomfortable, holding his Bible and not sure whether to continue. Marcus shifted on his feet. His collar felt too tight. I thought she was. You thought what? Camila snapped, no longer whispering. You told me she was barren. You said that's why you left her. You said she couldn't give you children. I believed it, Marcus stammered, sweat forming on his forehead despite the air conditioning. That's what I thought. That's what? What doctors? Camila cut him off. You never showed me any medical records. You never agreed to go for tests yourself. The crowd was now completely focused on the couple at the altar. Even the photographer didn't know where to point his camera anymore. The DJ had stopped the music. Marcus rubbed his head, his white tuxedo suddenly feeling like a costume. Camila, please, can we talk about this after? No, she said firmly, loudly enough that her voice echoed in the high-ceilinged ballroom. We will talk now because the entire city is watching. She turned to face the crowd, her veil falling back. Her face was flushed with anger and humiliation. Is this your idea of a joke, Marcus? You invited your ex-wife here to disgrace her, and now she walks in with twins. There was an audible gasp from the guests. Someone's champagne glass clinked as they set it down too hard. Marcus looked around nervously. Lower your voice. But Camila stepped away from him, her crystal-covered train dragging behind her. Her voice was shaking now, with both fury and hurt. You lied to me. You lied to me just like you lied to her. Jamal came up quickly, trying to salvage the situation. Camila, please. Let's go outside for a minute. Let's just... No, she said, pulling her arm away. I want answers right here. In front of everyone. She looked directly at Shayla, who was sitting calmly, gently bouncing her baby girl on her knee. "Ma'am," Camila called out, her voice cracking. "Forgive me for asking this in front of all these people, but are those babies yours?" The ballroom went dead silent. You could hear the ice melting in glasses. Shayla stood up slowly. She adjusted her son on her hip and held her daughter close. Keisha quickly came to help, taking the baby boy so Shayla could speak clearly. "Yes," Shayla said, her voice calm but strong enough to carry through the room. "They are my children. My twins. Born 7 months ago." The hall erupted in whispers. Shayla looked at Marcus. Her eyes were calm, but there was power in them. "You called me barren, Marcus. You threw me out of your home and made me cry on the floor. You said I was cursed. You made me believe I was less than a woman. You told everyone I was the problem." People gasped quietly. Some women in the audience started tearing up. "But I wasn't the problem," Shayla continued, her voice steady. "You never agreed to be tested. You said it was always me. But God showed the truth. And He gave me not one blessing, but 2. She kissed her daughter's head. "These are my miracles. And I thank God every day that He removed me from a situation where I was blamed for something that wasn't my fault." Marcus felt like the floor was opening beneath him. His tongue felt heavy. His vision blurred. Camila turned to him slowly, tears now streaming down her perfectly made-up face, ruining her makeup. "So you lied. You destroyed her. You dragged her name through the mud. And all this time, it was you." Marcus tried to reach for her hand. "Camila, I didn't know. I swear I didn't mean." "You didn't care?" Camila screamed. "You just wanted someone to blame. You just wanted to protect your ego." She stepped back, yanking her hand away. "I can't marry you, Marcus," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "Not today. Not ever. I deserve better than a man who can't face the truth. Who destroys women instead of looking in the mirror." The crowd gasped again, louder this time. The pastor quietly closed his Bible. The bridesmaids looked at each other in shock. Marcus tried one more time. "Camila, please don't do this here. We can work this out." "We can." She looked at him one last time, mascara running down her cheeks. "You're not ready for love, Marcus. You're still stuck in your pride and your lies. I'm done." 48:47. She dropped her crystal bouquet on the white carpet, the flowers scattering. Then she turned and walked out of the ballroom, her 20-foot train dragging behind her like a river of broken dreams. Her bridesmaids rushed after her, their heels clicking frantically on the marble. The massive Christmas tree stood there, twinkling with lights, as if mocking the moment. Marcus turned, his eyes wide, breathing hard. The room spun. His perfect white tuxedo felt like it was suffocating him. Guests began to whisper louder now, no longer trying to hide it. So it was his fault all along? He really invited her here to embarrass her and ended up embarrassing himself. That's what pride does to a man. "Did you see those babies? They're beautiful. She looks amazing. Like she's been blessed." Marcus looked at the ground. His knees felt weak. The camera crew was still filming. This was supposed to be his moment of triumph. Instead, it was his public destruction. Shayla turned and began walking toward the exit, her daughter back in her arms. Keisha walked beside her carrying the baby boy. She didn't look back. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She walked like a queen leaving a courthouse after winning her case, with dignity, truth, and peace wrapped around her like a royal robe. Keisha met her at the door, tears in her eyes. "Shayla, you did it. You showed them the truth." Shayla shook her head gently. "I didn't do it to prove anything to them. I just came to be seen. To remind myself that I'm not who he said I was." They stepped outside. The Bugatti was waiting, engine purring. The valet opened the door respectfully, his eyes full of admiration. They slid into the car. Shayla held her babies close. "Are you okay, Mommy?" Keisha asked softly as the car pulled away from the plaza. Shayla looked at her twins, then out the window at the snowy New York streets decorated with Christmas lights. She smiled. "Yes," she said. "I'm more than okay. I'm free." 50:00. Back at the venue, Marcus sat alone on the edge of the stage where he was supposed to say his vows. His white tuxedo looked too big now. His gold watch felt too heavy. The ballroom that had been filled with 500 guests was now emptying rapidly. The drinks were still cold. The 5-tier cake sat untouched. The live band had packed up. But the joy had left the building. Jamal walked up quietly and sat beside him on the steps. "Bro, what now?" Marcus didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at the door Shayla had walked through, the same door his bride had run through. The door his lies had opened wide. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Deshaun Williams felt truly alone. The snow continued to fall outside the Plaza Hotel. Inside, the cleaning crew was already being called to start taking down decorations. Christmas music still played softly from the speakers, but it felt hollow now. Marcus's phone started buzzing. Text messages, Instagram notifications, Twitter mentions. The wedding was already viral, but not in the way he'd planned. Jamal put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Come on, man. Let's get you out of here." Marcus finally stood up, his legs shaky. As they walked toward the exit, he passed the front row where Shayla had been sitting. On the chair, she had left something, a small white envelope. He picked it up with trembling hands. Inside was a simple card. No long message. Just a few words in her handwriting. "I forgive you. I hope you find peace. Shayla." Marcus's knees buckled. He sat back down, holding the card, and for the first time in years, he cried. Not angry tears. Not proud tears. But tears of true regret. Meanwhile, back in Harlem, Shayla's apartment was filled with warmth. Dante had decorated for Christmas, a small tree in the corner, stockings hung by the window, lights strung across the walls. When Shayla walked in carrying the twins, still in her emerald dress, Dante rushed to help her. "I saw everything," he said, taking their daughter gently. "It's all over social media. Baby, you were incredible." Shayla kicked off her heels and sat on the couch, exhausted but peaceful. "I just wanted him to see that I'm okay. That I'm better than okay." Keisha came in behind them, closing the door. "Girl, you didn't just show him. You showed the world. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. People are calling you a queen." Shayla laughed, a real genuine laugh. "I'm not a queen. I'm just a woman who survived." Dante sat beside her, their son now sleeping in his arms. "You're my queen. And you're these babies' queen. That's all that matters." They sat there as a family, the twins sleeping, Dante holding Shayla's hand, Keisha wiping happy tears from her eyes. "What do you think will happen to him?" Keisha asked after a moment. Shayla looked at the Christmas tree lights twinkling. "I don't know. But that's not my burden to carry anymore. I released him a long time ago. Tonight was just closure. For me. Not for him." 1 month had passed since the wedding that never happened. The videos were still circulating online. The story had been picked up by blogs, podcasts, even a few news outlets. "Woman who was called barren shows up to ex's wedding with twins" was a headline that wouldn't die. But for Shayla, life had returned to beautiful normalcy. Her restaurant was thriving. The twins were growing. Dante had proposed properly, with a ring and everything, even though they were already married. "I wanted to do it right this time," he said. Marcus, on the other hand, was no longer the man people admired. His business had taken a hit. Some investors had pulled out after the viral video, not wanting to be associated with the drama. His social media comments were brutal. Even his mother had called him disappointed. "You destroyed a good woman, Marcus," Mrs. Williams had said on the phone, her voice heavy with regret. "And I helped you do it. I'm ashamed of both of us." But worst of all, Marcus had finally gotten tested. The results confirmed what deep down he had feared: severely low sperm count, likely from an untreated infection years ago. The doctor said natural conception would be nearly impossible without medical intervention. He sat in his penthouse, now feeling too big and too empty, staring at the medical report. So many years, he whispered to himself. So many lies. So many people I hurt. And I was the one broken all along. His phone buzzed with another blog post. Former real estate mogul faces backlash after ex-wife's dramatic Christmas wedding appearance. He sighed and dropped the phone. One cold evening in late January, there was a knock on Shayla and Dante's door. Shayla was in the kitchen making bottles for the twins' nighttime feeding. Dante went to answer. He opened the door and his face hardened. Marcus. Marcus stood there looking nothing like the man from the wedding. He wore a simple black coat, jeans, and sneakers. His eyes were red. His face looked older, worn. I know I have no right to be here, Marcus said quietly. But I needed to. I just needed to say something. Dante didn't move from the doorway. She's happy now. Don't come here to disturb her peace. I won't, Marcus said. I promise. Just 5 minutes. Please. Dante turned to look at Shayla. She had come to the hallway, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked at Marcus for a long moment, then nodded to Dante. It's okay, she said softly. Dante stepped aside, but didn't leave the hallway. Marcus walked in slowly, his hands in his pockets like a schoolboy coming to apologize to his teacher. Shayla, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She stood in her living room, the Christmas tree still up even though it was January, the twins sleeping peacefully in their playpen. She folded her arms, not cold, but protective of her peace. I saw the card you left, Marcus began. The one that said you forgive me. Shayla nodded. I meant it. I don't deserve it, he said, tears forming. I ruined everything. I judged you wrongly. I insulted you. I let my pride blind me. I made you believe you were broken when you were perfect. Silence filled the room. Marcus took a step closer. I finally got tested. Like you asked me to years ago. He pulled out a folded paper from his coat pocket. The doctor confirmed it. I'm the one with the issue. Severe fertility problems. Probably from years ago. He looked at the sleeping twins. So all those years, all those tears you cried, all those prayers you prayed. His voice broke. It was me. It was always me. Shayla's expression didn't change. She had known this truth for a long time. I know, she said simply. Marcus looked at her, confused. You knew. I got tested after you left me, she said. The doctors told me I was perfectly healthy. That's when I realized the truth. Marcus's face crumbled. And you still forgave me? Even knowing I lied? Even knowing I destroyed you for something that was my fault? Shayla took a deep breath. I forgave you because holding on to anger was destroying me, not you. I forgave you so I could be free. So I could be the mother my children deserve. So I could love my husband without carrying bitterness. She walked closer to him. Marcus, what you did was wrong. It was cruel. It broke me for a long time. But I'm not broken anymore. And I don't hate you. I've moved on. Truly moved on. Marcus nodded, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you for these words. I don't expect us to be friends. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I see now. I see what I lost. I see what I destroyed. And I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I'm truly sorry. Dante stepped forward. I think it's time for you to go. Marcus nodded quickly. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry for intruding. He looked at Shayla one last time. I'm glad you're happy. I mean that. You deserve everything good. As he turned to leave, Shayla called out. Marcus. He turned back. I hope you find peace too, she said. Real peace. Not the kind that comes from money or status, but the kind that comes from knowing who you are and being honest about it. Marcus swallowed hard. Thank you, Shayla. For everything. Even for this moment. And with that, he walked out of her apartment, out of her life, hopefully towards some kind of healing for himself. The next morning, Marcus woke up in his penthouse to another storm. His company had lost a major deal. Some investors had officially pulled out. He had hundreds of messages, some from family, some from reporters, some from people he thought were friends. But the one that shook him most was a message from Camila. Don't try to contact me. I've moved back to Miami. I hope you learn to be honest with yourself. And maybe one day, honest with someone who deserves your truth. He sat back on his bed, holding his head in his hands. Everything was gone. The wedding. The woman. The respect. The image. But strangely, he felt lighter. Maybe this was what it meant to be truly humbled. To lose everything so you could finally see yourself clearly. He looked at his phone one more time and opened Instagram. He typed slowly, carefully, and posted publicly. I want to apologize publicly. I blame someone for something that wasn't her fault. I let pride destroy my marriage. I lied to protect my ego. I'm the one who had fertility issues, not her. I'm sorry to everyone I hurt, especially to my ex-wife who deserved so much better than me. I'm taking time to work on myself. To be honest. To be better. If you're going through something, please get tested. Be honest with yourself. Don't let pride cost you everything like it cost me. He posted it and turned off his phone. The internet exploded. Some people applauded his honesty. Others said it was too late. But it didn't matter anymore. He wasn't doing it for likes or comments. He was doing it because it was finally the truth. Meanwhile, at Shayla's restaurant, Shayla's kitchen, the lunch rush was in full swing. The place was packed with customers, some regulars, some new people who had heard her story and wanted to support her. One older black woman came up to Shayla at the counter and hugged her. "Baby, I saw your story online. You are an inspiration. You showed that God will vindicate you. You don't have to fight. Just keep walking." Shayla smiled, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. That means everything." Dante was in the back managing the orders, the twins in a playpen nearby where he could watch them while working. They had hired 2 more cooks and a server because business had tripled since the viral wedding video. Keisha came running in, phone in hand. "Shayla, Marcus just posted an apology. A real one. He admitted everything." Shayla wiped her hands on her apron and looked at the phone. She read his words carefully. Then she handed the phone back. "Good," she said simply. "I hope that brings him peace." "That's it?" Keisha asked, surprised. "No reaction?" "No, I told you so." Shayla shook her head. "That chapter is closed, Keisha. I'm writing new pages now. Better pages. Pages with my husband, my children, my business, my joy. He can have his journey. I'm on mine." She looked around her restaurant, the customers laughing and eating, the walls decorated with family photos. The dream she once thought was impossible now thriving before her eyes. "This is what matters," Shayla said, gesturing to everything around her. "This. Right here. This is my victory." That evening, as the restaurant closed and they walked home through the snowy Harlem streets, Dante pushed the double stroller with the twins bundled up warm. Shayla walked beside him, their hands intertwined. "I'm proud of you," Dante said. "Not just for how you handled today or the wedding, but for how you chose to heal. A lot of people would have stayed bitter." Shayla leaned her head on his shoulder as they walked. "I almost did. For a long time, I was so angry. But anger was like drinking poison and expecting him to die. It was killing me, not him." They stopped at a crosswalk, waiting for the light. "You know what I realized?" Shayla continued. "God didn't just remove me from that situation. He promoted me. Every painful ending was actually a beautiful beginning. I just couldn't see it at the time." The light turned green. They crossed the street, their breath visible in the cold air, the city lights reflecting off the snow. "These babies," Shayla said, looking into the stroller at her sleeping twins. "They're not just my children. They're my proof. Proof that the problem was never me. Proof that God saw my tears. Proof that what people call impossible, God calls, watch me work." Dante squeezed her hand. "And I get to be part of this miracle. Every single day." They reached their building. Dante carried the stroller up the steps while Shayla unlocked the door. Once inside their warm apartment, they went through their evening routine, bottles, diaper changes, lullabies, prayers. As they laid the twins in their cribs, Shayla whispered over each one, "You are loved. You are wanted. You are proof that God keeps his promises." Later that night, after the babies were asleep and Dante was in the shower, Shayla sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. She pulled out her journal, something her therapist had encouraged her to keep. She wrote, "December was supposed to break me. The invitation. The wedding. Facing him again. But instead, it freed me completely. I realized I don't need him to apologize to be whole. I don't need him to admit he was wrong to know I was right. I already have everything I prayed for. Sometimes God's greatest blessings come wrapped in rejection. Marcus rejecting me led me to Dante. His cruelty led me to discover my strength. His lies led me to the truth about myself. I am not barren. I am not cursed. I am not less than. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a business owner. I am loved. And I am free. She closed the journal and smiled. 3 months later, it was March. Spring was beginning to bloom in New York. Shayla's restaurant had been featured in a local food magazine. The headline read, "From Heartbreak to Healing, How One Woman Built an Empire from Her Pain." The twins were now almost 1 year old, starting to crawl and babble. The restaurant had expanded to include a small catering division. Dante had left his community center job to help run the business full-time. They were now looking at opening a second location. One Saturday afternoon, Shayla was doing a cooking demonstration at a women's empowerment brunch in Brooklyn. About 50 women filled the room: Black women, Latina women, white women, Asian women, all different ages, all different stories. After the demonstration, during the Q&A, a young woman in the back raised her hand. She looked about 25, her eyes sad. "Miss Shayla," she said, her voice shaking. "I saw your story online. I'm going through something similar. My boyfriend of 6 years just left me. He said I can't give him what he needs. He said it's my fault we have no children. But I don't know if that's true. I'm scared to get tested. I'm scared it really is me." The room went quiet. Shayla walked down from the small stage and stood in front of the young woman. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Jasmine." "Jasmine," Shayla said gently, "I want you to hear me clearly. Your worth is not determined by your ability to have children. Your value as a woman is not tied to your womb. But you do need to know the truth. Not for him. For you." Jasmine wiped her eyes. "What if I find out it really is me?" "Then you deal with that truth with your head held high," Shayla said firmly. "You explore your options, fertility treatments, adoption, surrogacy, or maybe you discover that motherhood isn't the only path to fulfillment. But you don't let anyone make you feel broken without facts. You don't accept blame without proof. And most importantly, you don't stay with someone who tears you down instead of lifting you up." The room erupted in applause. Another woman stood up. "But how do you stop feeling bitter? How do you forgive someone who hurt you that badly?" Shayla took a deep breath. "Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's not saying what they did was okay. It's saying, I'm not going to let what you did keep destroying my life. Bitterness is heavy. It weighs you down. It steals your joy. Forgiveness is putting down that weight so you can walk into your future freely." She continued, "And let me be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. Forgiveness means you release them from your heart so you can fill that space with something better. With joy. With peace. With new love. With your dreams." After the event, several women came up to hug Shayla. They shared their stories. Some were going through divorces. Some had been told they were infertile. Some had been emotionally abused. Some were just lonely and trying to figure out their next step. Shayla listened to each one, offered words of encouragement, and exchanged phone numbers with those who wanted to stay connected. As she packed up her cooking supplies, Jasmine, the young woman who had asked the first question, came back up to her. "Miss Shayla, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm going to make an appointment to get tested. Not for him. For me. Because I deserve to know the truth about my own body." Shayla hugged her tightly. "Yes, you do. And whatever you find out, you're going to be okay. I promise you that." As she drove home that evening, Shayla felt a sense of purpose she had never felt before. Her pain had given her a platform. Her story was helping other women find their strength. When she walked into the apartment, Dante was on the floor with the twins, all 3 of them covered in mashed bananas and laughter. "How was the event?" he asked, trying to wipe banana off their son's face while their daughter smeared more on her own hair. Shayla laughed and pulled out her phone to take a picture. "It was perfect. I think I found my calling." "Cooking?" Dante asked. "Helping women heal," Shayla said. "Through food, through my story, through whatever it takes." Meanwhile, across town in his now much smaller apartment, he'd had to sell the penthouse. Marcus was attending his first therapy session. The therapist, Dr. Michelle Foster, sat across from him with a notepad. "So, Marcus, tell me why you're here." Marcus exhaled deeply. "I destroyed my life. I destroyed someone else's life. And I need to figure out why I did it so I never do it again. That's a good start, Dr. Foster said. Let's begin with the relationship with your ex-wife. When did you start blaming her for not having children? Marcus thought back. Honestly? From the beginning. My mother, she put a lot of pressure on me. In our culture, in our family, a man without children is less. That's how I was raised. Sons carry the legacy. And when year after year there was no baby, I started to panic. Did you ever consider that you might be the one with fertility issues? Marcus shook his head shamefully. No. I couldn't even consider it. To me, that would mean I was less of a man. So I blamed her. It was easier. And how does that make you feel now? Like a coward, Marcus said, tears forming. Like the worst kind of man. I broke a good woman because I couldn't face the truth about myself. Dr. Foster leaned forward. Marcus, healing starts with honesty. You've taken the first step by acknowledging what you did. Now comes the harder part, forgiving yourself and doing the work to change. Over the next several months, Marcus continued therapy. He started attending a men's support group for those dealing with infertility. He volunteered at a youth center in the Bronx, mentoring young men about healthy relationships and emotional honesty. He didn't date. He didn't post on social media much. He focused on becoming a better version of himself. One day, at the youth center, a 17-year-old kid named Darius approached him after a workshop on respect and relationships. Mr. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course, Darius. My girlfriend, she wants me to meet her parents, get serious, maybe even talk about future plans. But I'm scared. What if I can't give her what she wants? What if I'm not enough? Marcus sat down with him on the steps outside. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Being enough isn't about what you can give someone materially. It's about how you treat them. It's about honesty. It's about showing up even when things are hard. It's about not blaming them for your own insecurities. He continued, I spent years making someone feel small because I was too proud to face my own issues. Don't be like I was. If you're scared, tell her you're scared. If you don't know something, admit it. Build your relationship on truth, not on pretending to be something you're not. Darius nodded slowly. Did you ever fix things with your ex? Marcus smiled sadly. No. Some things can't be fixed. But I apologized. I took responsibility. And I'm doing the work to make sure I never hurt anyone like that again. Sometimes that's all you can do. Back in Harlem, as the twins approached their first birthday, Shayla and Dante planned a big party. They rented out a section of a local park, hired a bounce house, invited all their friends and family. Keisha was in charge of decorations. She went all out, balloons everywhere, a dessert table that looked like something from Pinterest, a photo booth with props. The day of the party was beautiful, sunny, warm, perfect spring weather. Kids ran around laughing. Adults mingled and ate. The twins, dressed in matching outfits, were overwhelmed by all the attention and cake. As Shayla watched her children smash their first birthday cakes, because of course they each needed their own, surrounded by people who loved them, she felt overcome with emotion. Dante came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about how different my life is now, she said. A year ago, I was terrified. I was a new mother with twins, still healing from everything with Marcus, still building the restaurant, still figuring out who I was. And now? Now I know exactly who I am, she said, turning to face him. I'm not the woman Marcus said I was. I'm not broken. I'm not cursed. I'm not less than. I'm exactly who God created me to be. And these babies, she gestured to the twins covered in cake, they're the exclamation point on that truth. Dante kissed her forehead. I love you so much. I love you too. Just then, Shayla's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw a message from a number she didn't recognize. Hi, this is Jasmine. We met at the Brooklyn brunch. I wanted to let you know I got tested. You were right, nothing wrong with me. I left my boyfriend. I'm scared, but I'm free. Thank you for your story. It saved my life. Shayla showed Dante the message, tears in her eyes. Your pain is helping people, he said. That's powerful. She nodded, wiping her tears and smiling. Then it wasn't wasted. None of it was wasted. As the party wound down and the sun began to set, Shayla stood in the middle of the park, holding her daughter while Dante held their son. Keisha was packing up decorations. Family members were saying goodbye. An older woman, Shayla's grandmother who had flown in from South Carolina, came over and hugged her. "Baby girl," she said in her thick Southern accent, "I am so proud of you. You went through the fire and came out as gold." "Thank you, Grandma. Your granddaddy used to say, sometimes God lets you hit rock bottom so you can feel him lift you back up. That's your testimony, child. You were down, but you weren't out. And look at you now." Shayla hugged her grandmother tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of cocoa butter and lavender. "I couldn't have made it without prayer, without faith, without believing that God saw me even when I felt invisible." Her grandmother pulled back and looked her in the eyes. "He always did, baby. He always did. And he used your pain to prepare you for this purpose. You're going to help a lot of women with your story. Don't ever be ashamed of where you came from. Your mess became your message." That night, after putting the twins to bed, exhausted but happy, Shayla sat on the couch with Dante. They were looking through photos from the party on Dante's phone. "This one," Dante said, showing her a picture of Shayla laughing while the twins attacked their cakes. "This is my favorite. This is pure joy." Shayla smiled. "Send it to me." As he did, she thought about everything: the journey, the pain, the healing, the unexpected blessings. "You know what?" she said suddenly. "What?" Dante asked. "I want to write a book." Dante sat up. "About your story?" "Yes. About my story. About being blamed for something that wasn't my fault. About healing. About finding yourself after someone tries to destroy you. About how rejection can be redirection. About how closed doors lead to open windows." Dante's eyes lit up. "That's amazing, baby. You absolutely should. So many women need to hear this." "I'll call it." Shayla thought for a moment. "I'll call it Not Barren: How I Found My Fertility in the Wilderness." Dante laughed. "That's powerful. When are you going to start?" "Tomorrow," Shayla said with determination. "I'm going to start tomorrow." And she did. Over the next year, while running her restaurant and raising her twins, Shayla wrote. She wrote early in the mornings before the babies woke up. She wrote late at night after they went to sleep. She wrote on her phone during the twins' nap time. She wrote through tears, through laughter, through memories that still hurt and memories that now healed. She wrote about the night Marcus threw her out. She wrote about sleeping on Keisha's couch. She wrote about the doctor's appointment that changed everything. She wrote about meeting Dante. She wrote about the pregnancy. She wrote about the Christmas wedding. And she wrote about forgiveness, not the easy kind, but the hard, daily choice kind. When she finished, she sent the manuscript to a small publishing house that specialized in memoirs and self-help books for women. 3 weeks later, they called. "Miss Carter," the editor said, "we want to publish your book. Your story is exactly what women need right now. It's honest, it's painful, but most importantly, it's hopeful." Shayla cried on the phone. "Really? Really? When can you come in to discuss details?" 6 months later, Not Barren: How I Found My Fertility in the Wilderness hit bookstores. It wasn't a massive bestseller, but it didn't need to be. It found its audience: women who had been blamed, women who had been shamed, women who were rebuilding their lives. Shayla started getting invited to speak at churches, women's conferences, book clubs. She did podcast interviews. She shared her story over and over, each time helping someone else feel less alone. One evening, almost 2 years after the Christmas wedding that never happened, Shayla was doing a book signing at a Barnes and Noble in Manhattan. A woman approached her table, probably in her 50s, with tears in her eyes. "Miss Shayla," she said, "I just finished your book yesterday. I've been divorced for 3 years. My ex-husband blamed me for our infertility for 20 years. 20 years I believed I was the problem. After reading your book, I finally got tested. There's nothing wrong with me. There never was." Shayla stood up and hugged her. "I'm so sorry you went through that. But I'm so glad you know the truth now. Your book gave me my life back," the woman said. "Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to tell your story." After the signing, as Shayla packed up her books, she felt that familiar sense of purpose. This was bigger than her. This was a movement of women refusing to carry shame that was never theirs to carry. Meanwhile, Marcus was watching from a distance. Not physically, he hadn't tried to contact Shayla in almost 2 years. But he saw her success online. He saw the book. He saw the speaking engagements. He saw the photos of her thriving family. He was genuinely happy for her. Not in a jealous way, but in a "I'm glad she's okay despite what I did" way. He was still in therapy. Still volunteering. Still working on himself. He had started dating someone new, a woman named Angela who knew his whole story and loved him anyway. They were taking it slow. Very slow. With honesty as their foundation. One day, Angela asked him, "Do you ever regret losing Shayla?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I regret how I treated her. I regret the pain I caused. But honestly, we weren't right for each other, even without the fertility issues. I was too immature, too selfish, too concerned with appearances. She needed someone who would love her through the valleys, not just on the mountaintops. She needed someone like Dante." He continued, "What I regret most is that I had a good woman, and I was too broken to appreciate her. But I'm grateful that my brokenness didn't break her. She found her strength despite me, not because of me. And I'm working every day to make sure I never treat another woman the way I treated her." Angela nodded. "I appreciate your honesty. That's why I'm giving you a chance. And I won't mess it up," Marcus said. "I promise you that." 3 years after the Christmas wedding, Shayla was invited to speak at a major women's conference in Atlanta. 5,000 women in the audience. Her book had now sold over 50,000 copies. Her restaurant had 2 locations. The twins were in preschool. As she stood backstage waiting to go on, she felt nervous. This was the biggest audience she'd ever spoken to. Keisha, who had flown down with her, squeezed her hand. "Girl, you've got this. Just tell them the truth like you always do." The host announced her, "Please welcome author, entrepreneur, and survivor Shayla Carter." The crowd erupted in applause. Shayla walked onto the stage, the lights bright, the audience vast. She took the microphone and smiled. "Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Shayla Carter. And I want to tell you about the worst Christmas of my life and how it became the best thing that ever happened to me." For the next 45 minutes, she shared her story. She made them laugh. She made them cry. She made them think. She made them feel seen. She ended with this: "Ladies, if you're in a situation right now where someone is making you feel small, making you feel broken, making you feel like you're not enough, I need you to hear me clearly. That's their issue, not yours. Don't you dare accept blame for something that isn't your fault. Don't you dare shrink yourself to fit into someone else's limited vision of who you should be." The crowd stood to their feet, applauding. Get tested. Know your truth. Not for them, for you. Because you deserve to make decisions based on facts, not on someone else's insecurities. And whether you can have biological children or not, whether you choose to have children or not, whether you're married or single, your value doesn't change. You are enough. Exactly as you are. The applause grew louder. And to the women who have been called barren, who have been blamed, who have been shamed, I see you. God sees you. And your story isn't over. Your wilderness season is preparing you for your promised land. Hold on. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Your miracle is coming. And when it does, it will be so big, so beautiful, so overwhelming that everyone who doubted you will have to stand back and acknowledge that God did that. The entire arena was on their feet, women crying, hugging each other, cheering. Shayla stood there, tears streaming down her face, microphone in hand, finally understanding why she had to go through everything she went through. After the conference, backstage, dozens of women lined up to meet her. Each one shared a piece of their story. Each one thanked her for giving them hope. One young woman, couldn't have been more than 23, approached her last. "Miss Shayla," she said quietly, "I'm in a relationship right now where my boyfriend blames me for us not having a baby yet. We've only been together for 8 months, but he's already saying it's my fault. After hearing you speak, I realize I don't have to stay. I don't have to prove myself. I can leave." Shayla took both of her hands. "Yes, you can leave. And you should leave. Because anyone who blames you without facts, who pressures you after only 8 months, who makes you feel less than, that person doesn't deserve you. Leave now before it gets worse. Before you waste years like I did. The young woman nodded, tears falling. Thank you. I needed to hear that. As Shayla flew back to New York that night, sitting in first class, something she never thought she'd experience, she reflected on her journey. 5 years ago, she was crying on a subway. Homeless. Heartbroken. Hopeless. Now she was an author, a businesswoman, a mother, a wife, and most importantly, she was healed. The plane landed at JFK just before midnight. Dante was there waiting for her with the twins, who were supposed to be asleep but were wide awake with excitement. "Mommy," they yelled in unison, running to her. She dropped her bags and scooped them both up, kissing their faces over and over. "I missed you so much." "We missed you too," her son said. "Daddy let us have ice cream for dinner." Shayla looked at Dante with mock disapproval. He shrugged sheepishly. They negotiated hard. She laughed and kissed him. "I love you." "I love you more," he said. "How was Atlanta?" "Life-changing," she said. "I'll tell you all about it." As they drove home through the city, the twins falling asleep in their car seats, Shayla looked out the window at the New York skyline. The same city that had witnessed her pain was now witnessing her triumph. "You know what I'm thinking," she said to Dante. "What's that?" "I'm thinking about sending Marcus a copy of my book." Dante glanced at her surprised. "Really? Why?" "Not to hurt him. Not to gloat. But because I wrote a chapter about forgiveness, about how healing isn't complete until you can wish good things for the people who hurt you. I want him to know I'm not angry anymore. That I genuinely hope he's found peace too." Dante reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're a better person than most." "No," Shayla said, "I'm just free. And freedom feels better than revenge ever could." And so, Shayla did send Marcus a copy of the book. She included a simple note. "Marcus, I wrote this book not to expose you, but to free other women who are going through what I went through. You're mentioned, but with grace. I hope you're well. I hope you've found peace. I hope you've learned to be honest with yourself and with the people you love. Thank you for the lessons, even the painful ones. They made me who I am today. Shayla." Marcus received it 2 weeks later. He sat in his apartment, now shared with Angela, and read the entire book in one sitting. He cried multiple times. Not from shame, but from recognition. She had written about him honestly but not cruelly. She had told the truth but without malice. She had held him accountable but also showed her own journey of forgiveness. When he finished, he closed the book and sat in silence for a long time. Angela came and sat beside him. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said, wiping his eyes. I'm grateful. Grateful she survived me. Grateful she found happiness. Grateful she chose healing over hatred." He looked at the book cover, a photo of Shayla smiling, holding her twins, the title in bold letters, "Not barren." "She was never barren," he whispered. I was barren in spirit, barren in empathy, barren in love. And she had to leave me to bloom." Angela kissed his cheek. "And now you're learning to bloom too. That's what matters." 5 years. That's how long it had been since that December night when Marcus threw Shayla out into the cold. 5 years of growth, of healing, of transformation. Shayla's restaurant chain now had 4 locations. Her book was being adapted into a podcast series. The twins were in kindergarten, thriving, and happy. She and Dante were talking about maybe having one more baby, but this time without pressure, without fear, just out of love. Marcus had married Angela in a small, quiet ceremony. No social media posts, no elaborate plans, just genuine love and commitment. They had decided to adopt, embracing parenthood in a different way, one that didn't center his ego but their capacity to love. Both of them had found peace, just on different paths. One random Tuesday afternoon, Shayla was at her flagship restaurant going over inventory when a new waitress approached her nervously. "Miss Shayla, there's a man outside who wants to speak with you. He says his name is Marcus." Shayla's heart skipped, but not from fear. From surprise. "Tell him I'll be out in a minute." She washed her hands, checked her reflection, took a deep breath, and walked outside. Marcus was standing there in casual clothes, jeans, a sweater, looking humble and peaceful. Next to him stood a woman Shayla assumed was Angela. "Shayla," Marcus said, "I hope this isn't intrusive. We were in the neighborhood, and I wanted to properly thank you for the book. For the grace you showed me in it." Shayla smiled. "You're welcome. I meant every word. This is Angela," he gestured to the woman beside him. "My wife." Shayla extended her hand. "It's nice to meet you." "You too," Angela said warmly. "Your book, it helped Marcus and me have some important conversations. Thank you for writing it." There was no tension, no awkwardness. Just three people who had grown past their pain. "How are the twins?" Marcus asked. "They're amazing," Shayla said, pulling out her phone to show recent photos. "Starting kindergarten, full of energy. They keep me busy." Marcus smiled, looking at the photos. "They're beautiful. You're a great mother." "Thank you. And the restaurant business is clearly going well." He gestured to the busy establishment. "It is. God has been good." There was a comfortable pause. Then Marcus said, "Shayla, I know I apologized before, but I wanted to do it again, with Angela here, with a clear mind. I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve any of what I put you through. You were a good wife, and I was too blind to see it." Shayla nodded. "I appreciate that. And I genuinely forgive you. I did a long time ago. You can let it go now." Marcus's eyes welled up. "Thank you." "We should get going," Angela said gently, sensing the moment had reached its natural conclusion. "It was good seeing you both," Shayla said. As they walked away, Marcus turned back one more time. "Shayla?" "Yes. I'm proud of you. For real." She smiled. "I'm proud of you too. For doing the work. For being honest. For growing." And with that, they parted ways, not as enemies, not even as friends, but as two people who had been part of each other's story and had both found their own happy endings. That evening, Shayla told Dante about the encounter while they made dinner together. "How did it feel seeing him?" Dante asked, chopping vegetables. "Peaceful," Shayla said. "That's the only word for it. I felt nothing but peace. No anger, no bitterness, no what if. Just peace." "That's beautiful," Dante said. "It is," she agreed. "You know, people always talk about closure like it's something someone else gives you. But I realized today that closure is something you give yourself. It's a choice. I chose to close that chapter years ago, and today just confirmed that the door is truly sealed. Not locked, just closed gently with grace." She stirred the pot on the stove. "And now I get to live in this chapter. The one with you, with our babies, with our dreams coming true. This is the chapter one want to stay in." Dante wrapped his arms around her from behind. "I'm honored to be in your story. And I'm honored to be in yours." As the years continued to pass, Shayla's influence grew. She started a nonprofit organization called Not Barren Foundation that provided free fertility testing for women in underserved communities, mental health counseling for women dealing with infertility and relationship trauma, and educational workshops on reproductive health. The foundation's motto was, "Know your truth. Own your worth." Her book was now taught in some college women's studies courses. She had a podcast with over 1 million downloads. Her restaurant empire continued to expand. But more than any of that, she was happy. Truly, deeply, peacefully happy. The twins grew into smart, kind, confident children. Shayla and Dante eventually did have one more baby, a little girl they named Hope, because that's what their journey had been all about. And every Christmas Eve, the anniversary of that wedding that never happened, Shayla would sit with her family, look around at her blessings, and whisper a prayer of gratitude. "Thank you, God, for closed doors. Thank you for rejection that was really redirection. Thank you for showing me that I was never barren, I was just planted in the wrong soil. Thank you for moving me to where I could finally bloom." The story of Shayla Carter became more than just a story. It became a testimony. It became a message. It became hope for thousands of women who had been told they weren't enough. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. Sometimes the wedding that falls apart is making room for the marriage that will last. Sometimes being called barren is God's way of showing you that you were never empty, you were just saving your abundance for the right season. And sometimes, the man who invites you to his Christmas wedding to mock you ends up witnessing your greatest testimony. Shayla had come to that wedding in a Bugatti with twins not to prove anything to Marcus, but to prove everything to herself. She was whole. She was worthy. She was blessed. She was a mother. She was loved. And she was free. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you that your current chapter is not your final destination, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and remember, you are not barren. You're just in your wilderness season, and your promised land is coming. God sees you, and He's preparing something so beautiful that when it arrives, everyone will know it could only be Him. Stay strong. Keep believing. Your miracle is on its way.